Administrator, are you familiar with Thomasville, Georgia?
I don't know. I've been in a lot of parts of Georgia. I was just in Georgia about a week and a half ago.
Thomasville's in southwest Georgia. It is a great town known for Southern hospitality, great people, Mayor Mobley, Pastor Rich. There's a lot of agricultural activity around there. There's also a history, a legacy of heavy industry that has led to significant air pollution. And there remain significant concerns about air pollution, specifically particulate matter 2.5, and reported high levels of leukemia and pneumonia in and around Thomasville. And as you know, oftentimes these rural communities don't get the love and attention of the federal government. They can be forgotten. In Georgia, big cities tend to get a lot of the federal support. So there was great news for the good people of Thomasville last year when they won an EPA grant to help build a new health clinic, rehabbing the gym and the school to build a new federally qualified health center near 3 daycare centers, as well as to upgrade wastewater infrastructure. Earl Williams, who leads the Thomasville Community Development Corporation, called the grant a game changer. Mayor Mobley said the award represented a, quote, transformative opportunity to make vital health and safety improvements. But Administrator, you canceled the grant, and I'd like to know why.
So I'm looking at, this was part of the Environmental and Climate Justice Block Grant Program.
That's right.
So and this gets to an earlier interaction that we had, and Senator Rounds got added as well. When Congress appropriates a block of funding, an administration is going to apply their policy priorities to how that money is going to get spent. A new administration comes in, we still have to spend the appropriated funding unless something changes with
Administrator,
Congress.
with respect, I understand the appropriations process. My question is why you canceled this grant. What is it about building a new health clinic and upgrading wastewater infrastructure for my constituents in Thomasville, Georgia, that's inconsistent with administration policy?
So I don't have the full grant in front of me. I only have a top line, which program it came out of. So when a new administration comes in and they apply their policy priorities,
You're repeating yourself. My question is why you canceled this grant.
So when a new administration comes in this case, President Trump put out executive orders as it relates to environmental justice, with regards to DEI. I would imagine that if we looked at more details.
What does this have to do with, is a new health clinic for Thomasville, Georgia woke?
As I imagine, as we look through the details of the particular program, there must be some aspects of this applying the last administration's priorities on environmental justice.
Here's a community that suffered from air pollution, has a high disease burden as a result. Finally, the federal government comes. They're going to help build a health clinic and upgrade some infrastructure. You canceled the grant. Devastating for the community. Here's what the head of the Community Development Corporation said about your decision to cancel this grant, denying my constituents a new health clinic and new wastewater infrastructure, a decision you made that hurts my constituents in Thomasville. Here's what he said, quote, "We all worked so hard for this, and we won. And then all of a sudden, one day, it's gone. And it was just a great sense of disappointment. It was almost like I lost a good friend." He sent me another letter, said, quote, "Our community is devastated. You hurt my constituents, and I don't need a civics lesson on the appropriations process or a broad critique of this program. I want to know why you canceled this grant."
Senator, so when you go back to them and they ask, well, did you find out why the grant got canceled?
Well, do you know why? I'm asking you. I'm asking you canceled the grant. I don't need to ask them why the grant got canceled because it was your decision. So tell me why you canceled the grant.
You could say I asked the question and then decided to spend the entire 5 minutes cutting him off 8 times in the middle of his first answer, so I was unable to get a full response.
Why don't you answer the question specifically and directly? Why did you cancel this grant? Why are you denying my constituents a new health clinic and new wastewater infrastructure?
Do you want me to repeat anything that I said in the
want
past?
You to actually answer the question with specificity and not give a broad critique of this overall program or a lesson on how the appropriations process works.
If you were listening to anything that I said, Senator,
okay, you don't have an answer.
Say whatever you want, Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
That was Senator Jon Ossoff and EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin in an exchange that perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with the Trump administration. In what should have been a straightforward budget discussion, we instead witnessed a masterclass in evasion, deflection, and the dangerous incompetence that's become the hallmark of this administration. And let's be clear, Ossoff's line of questioning wasn't some gotcha. It was about a grant that Zeldin himself canceled that directly impacts Ossoff's constituents. And yet when asked directly about the cancellation of a $19.8 million grant to Thomasville, Georgia, money that would have replaced a failing wastewater system and built a community health clinic, Zeldin quite literally could not provide a clear answer. Instead, he retreated to vague references about policy priorities and the administration's obsession with eliminating anything remotely connected to environmental justice or DEI, prompting this pretty devastating moment.
With regards to DEI, I would imagine that if we
What does
look
this
at
have
more
to do
details-
with, is a new health clinic for Thomasville, Georgia woke?
There is a limit to how much Republicans can dine out on wokeness before they start looking like parodies of themselves. We have hit that limit and then far surpassed it. And again, these aren't just abstract policy disagreements. As Ossoff rightly noted, you hurt my constituents. Real people in Thomasville will continue to deal with inadequate wastewater infrastructure and lack access to health care because of ideological posturing disguised as governance. All because the Trump administration is solely concerned about pushing back against anything even tangentially connected to DEI. And therein lies the fundamental problem with this administration. They are so obsessed with fighting culture war battles against imaginary enemies that they are actively harming real live Americans across the country. Zeldin's cancellation of nearly 800 congressionally approved grants isn't about fiscal responsibility or good governance. It's about how they can throw red meat to the base by attacking anything with the words environmental justice attached to it, regardless of what the projects actually do, all of which reveals a more troubling reality. This administration is profoundly in over its head. Zeldin's performance wasn't just evasive. It demonstrated a fundamental lack of understanding of how the government works and the legal limitations on executive power. When Senator Merkley pointed out that withholding congressionally approved funds is illegal, Zeldin simply denied reality, saying, "We couldn't possibly disagree more strongly with what you're saying." But this isn't a matter of opinion. The Impoundment Control Act of 1974 explicitly prohibits the executive branch from withholding funds that Congress has appropriated. Multiple Supreme Court rulings have affirmed Congress's power of the purse. Zeldin's rejection of these basic constitutional principles isn't just wrong, it is dangerous. So how did we end up with such incompetent leadership at vital agencies like the EPA? It's because Trump doesn't appoint officials based on their qualifications, based on their expertise, based on their ability to effectively manage complex organizations. He appoints people based on their loyalty to him and their willingness to say nice things about him on TV. Lee Zeldin, like so many Trump appointees, got his job not because he has any particular expertise in environmental protection or agency management, but because he was a vocal Trump supporter in Congress. That's it. His primary qualification is his willingness to go on Fox and defend the God King regardless of what policies he's implementing. This pattern repeats itself across the administration. Consider Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, whose primary qualification was hosting Fox and Friends on the weekend. Or Dan Bongino, a Fox News pundit now serving as Deputy FBI Director. Or Tulsi Gabbard, a Fox News contributor now serving as Director of National Intelligence. The common thread isn't expertise or experience, it is television presence and loyalty to Trump. This is about making entertainment and nothing more. The result is an administration incapable of handling complex challenges of governance. These are not serious people with serious policy agendas. They are performers who excel at deflection and culture war rhetoric, but freeze when faced with the actual work of running a government. Lee Zeldin quite literally could not conjure up an answer that wasn't just a rehash of the same talking points he very clearly memorized beforehand. This Ossoff-Zeldin exchange perfectly illustrates the fundamental emptiness at the heart of the Trump administration. They have no coherent policy agenda beyond undoing anything associated with their predecessors and waging culture wars for Fox News. They have no expertise beyond media appearances. They have no answers when confronted with real-world consequences of their actions. As Senator Patty Murray puts it, their approach to governance can be summed up in these words: burn it down. They are not interested in making government work better. They are interested in dismantling it, regardless of who gets hurt in the process. That's the reality of Trump's America. Incompetent leadership, illegal actions, evasive answers, and ultimately, Americans left to suffer the consequences. The Thomasville Health Clinic may never be built, not because it wasn't needed, but because the Trump administration is more concerned with fighting phantom wokeness than helping Americans live better lives. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.